The views expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of SAUGA960 AM or its management.
Live from Toronto to the world.
Josh!
This is Josh Holiday Live. Talk that rocks.
The public needs to be informed.
Josh might surprise us.
Got an opinion? Dial 647-6YO-JOSH.
When you hear him, you're like, what?
Josh Holiday Live starts now.
Yes, we're here. Friday afternoon, long weekend. That's exciting. A lot of stuff to talk about. Going to talk about Pierre Poilievre and the people who support/defend him. Talk about the poor job Doug Ford is doing, according to surveys of Ontarians. I'm going to tell you what the latest world's richest person is. I'm going to let you know where the very worst toilet in the world is, in case you're a toilet tourist and you want to visit the best and the worst of the world's toilets. Give you some things not to do in a hotel. All kinds of stuff coming up. Maybe some games, some trivia. And always your calls. Welcome anytime. 647-6YO-JOSH. 647-696-5674 if you want to participate, be it in the games or commentary, what have you, whatever you like. It is Thanksgiving weekend. That's exciting. Are you having some turkey? Are you having... some people have ham. Some people have turkey. Some people have ham. I generally have turkey. Though, to be quite honest, I would rather just have some chicken. I prefer the taste better than turkey, so it almost feels like I'm just doing something ritualistic rather than something enjoyable. Last weekend, I went to a sort of a reunion / fundraiser for my high school. I went to a boarding school up north, graduated there. Really, really small school. When I was there, maybe 112 students total, spread out from grades 8 to graduation. So really small classes. Got to participate in a lot of things, from sports to, in my case, public speaking, drama, all that stuff. In any case, this a couple of years ago, they had a 25th anniversary for the 50th anniversary for the founding of the school. That was, I think, in 2017, and that was a huge party with a couple hundred people. This one was a 80s party get-together / fundraiser for some new programs, some new extracurricular programs at the school. I think the total number was just over 100 people going. My sister went to the school as well as I once it became co-ed, and she flew in from Alberta to partake. We got a hotel way up way up, not really, in Richmond Hill, and the party itself was at this amazing converted barn in Stouffville. I tend to be a little bit socially anxious when I'm in crowds, especially when there's a mix of people I know and a larger mix of people I don't really know. I'm not much of a drinker. I might have a glass of wine maybe, once every month or two. I like the taste of other stuff better. And I'm not much of a weed, a pot guy, be it smoking, vaping, doing edibles. But occasionally I'll eat a gummy on a special occasion. Usually on my own, though, just to sort of chill out and maybe, have a sleep. But in this case, I was thinking about this reunion. I was knowing that I'm not gonna drink, not gonna social lubricate in that way. And I came to the conclusion that, okay, I'm going to have some gummies that'll maybe loosen me up, put me in more of a giddy, fun mood. And so the week or two before the reunion fundraiser, I bought a few different varieties of gummies and tried them on assorted nights. But just me and my dog sitting in front of the television watching either hockey or random television shows. Some of them were a little too strong and in some cases were slightly kind of put me in an almost a I don't know how to describe it. Not delusional, but slightly just too much. And I found one that was pretty much just a happy maker. It just made me feel, I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling great. Feeling good. So I settled on that one, and I got a package for the reunion, and that was that. We went to this party, and I didn't take it right away. There was dinner and barbecue and socializing ahead of things, and then they had a auction. And during the beginning of the auction, I took the 2 gummies, ate them, and the journey began. I didn't notice it first. I think the first thing I noticed was when I was listening to the music, there were a lot of 80s songs that, for me, were extremely familiar. I've DJ'd 80 nights in the past and was part of radio that celebrated a lot of those 80s classics. But at one point, I started not recognizing the music. And I don't think it was because I didn't know the music. I think it's because my mind was playing tricks. So I was hearing kind of beats and sounds, but I wasn't really putting it together. And it wasn't a terrible thing. But here's where the issue happened when taking these edibles. I had done the test, as it were, in my home laboratory in front of the television with my dog, trying out these edibles just to sort of see how I felt while I was alone, just in my own head, not having to participate or really, really pay attention. What I didn't realize is that in a situation where I'm interacting with a lot of people, there's music, there's busy things happening, that it would work to my disadvantage. I thought I would be fun and bubbly and chatty with everybody. I felt, good, but I had a really hard time focusing on conversations and understanding what people were talking about. So you'd run into people who you hadn't met before. Maybe you've met them before, and you start having a chat, and they talk, and I couldn't really. It was a combination of maybe not hearing, but at the same time not really understanding what they were saying, and not being able to really concentrate. And so it became a situation where I just hoped that they wouldn't ask a question. They would just make statements, talk about, oh, this is good. And then I could just say, yeah, just say yeah a lot, smile and nod, and hope that they didn't ask me a question. It was tough. And the other thing I don't like about these types of events, edibles aside, is most people have fairly conventional jobs and careers. So when it comes to, what are you doing? These are, well, I work in investments, in a fund, blah, 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 or I'm raising, I don't know, whatever people do. It's usually one standard kind of, this is what I do, this is my thing. I'm a bit of a weirdo in a number of ways. But in this case, I do a bunch of things. I host radio. I'm an actor who's done various tiny things here and there. Nothing significant. So sometimes it's almost embarrassing. So, well, I'm an actor. What have you been in? Well, this little thing. And then I also work quite often doing some promotional writing and mixing for a large broadcaster, national broadcaster. And I also freelance doing some podcast editing, mostly interviews. So I do a whole bunch of things. So it's hard to sort of have that conversation. Whereas, what do you do? Well, I do this and this and this. I'm basically jack of all trades, master of none. That's all I should have said. Clear that up. So it's always a tough conversation. And then I had just a tiny little role in terms of the acting thing. Had a tiny little role, like a blink and you'll miss it role on Schitt's Creek, the television show. And so when people hear that, they get very excited. I'm kind of like, well, you know what? It was just like a small thing, and it's not really a giant deal. So I'm just socially awkward in large crowds, but not when I'm like, if I'm hosting something or I'm there in a performative capacity, be it stand up or emceeing or what have you. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm good at those types of things. If I have a microphone, essentially, a microphone is my cure for social anxiety. Anyway, that was the weekend. It was still a lot of fun. They raised quite a lot of money, not from broke types like me, but auction got quite high for some of the items. My sister we're both huge fans of Wendell Clark, former Toronto Maple Leafs captain, and in my opinion, the greatest Leaf of all time. Represented everything I like about hockey. Hitting, fighting, scoring, leading. Just the quintessential hockey player. Good Canadian Saskatchewan boy. And they had a silent auction that had a bottle of Wendell Clark whiskey, a special whiskey glass with the number 17 etched on it, and then a signed puck. The bottle was also signed. And my sister bid for it, and then I lingered around and kind of stared people off so they wouldn't upbid her, though she was already not the first bidder, so it had already gone up quite a bit. So that was what we came away with. It was fun. Thanksgiving is upon us, and I thought it might be a fun time just to share some random facts about turkeys. Just so you know, so you have a conversation piece over the dinner table with your uncle. Here we go. Here's some turkey facts. A baby turkey is called a poult, like poultry, but without the Y. Turkey under 16 weeks of age is called a fryer. I don't know why that is, but when I think fryer, I think deep fryer, and that flesh-like appendage that hangs over a turkey's beak, on top of the beak, is called a snood. And the thing under the neck, the big bright red appendage, is called the wattle. Most turkeys do gobble, Hens do not. They make more of a clicking noise. A 15-pound or a 6.8 kilogram turkey usually has about 70% white meat and 30% dark meat. I'm definitely a white meat guy. Commercially raised turkeys are too heavy to fly. In fact, turkey breedings cause turkey breasts to grow so large that turkeys sometimes fall over. There's a joke about large breasts in there, but I'm not going to make it. That's how classy this show is. There's what I'd like to call a T-ball. Is something that's T-ball is when they put a ball on a tee so a kid can hit it without having to worry about a pitch. It's almost a sure thing. I call certain things T-balls for jokes, where you can't not make a joke because it's just sitting there on that T-ball. But I'm not going to. Finally, scientists say that the idea that turkeys can drown if they look up when it's raining is just a myth. It's mythical. It is Josh Holiday Live. We are available on the telephone because we are live. 647-6-YO-JOSH. 647-696-5674 is the telephone number. I said that you can call us because we're live. We are Fridays between 3 and 4 are live. You can call in. But as we often mention, you can call that number anytime you like. Anytime you're hearing the show, even if you're not hearing the show. You wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night and you're like, God damn it, that guy said something I don't like. I'm going to call. Go ahead. Call, leave your message, and on a live show we'll perhaps play your comment or your question or your query or whatever it may be. Pierre Poilievre, Canada's fascist in waiting, was exposed a little bit this week. Exposed for courting more right-wingers. In this case, the incel types. We'll talk about that in just a bit, and we'll talk about how Doug Ford's polling is abysmal, which is to be expected because he's terrible. Talk about those things in just a bit.
Hi, this is Greg Carrasco from Oakville Nissan, and if you have a car in your life, and by that I mean a car, an SUV, a sports car, a pickup truck, and you want to sell it, but you don't want the hassle of doing it privately, I have a solution for you. Bring it to me. I will make you an offer. And if I end up buying the vehicle from you, we will give you a $1,000 gas card. Come and see me. There's something happening here at OakvilleNissan.com.
Attention all hockey fans. The Paramount Fine Food Center is the place to watch OHL hockey, and Mississauga Steelhead season tickets for the 2022-2023 season are now on sale. Get tickets for all 34 home games and get so many benefits, like 20% off concessions, complimentary access to all Paramount events, team gear, discounts with local partners, and more. For more information, contact the Steelheads representative at info@MississaugaSteelheads.com or call 905-502-7788 to get your season tickets today.
Stop climbing up that ladder every spring and fall to clean your gutters. Instead, install the Smart Screen Gutter Protection System. Recommended and endorsed by Mike Holmes, Smart Screen strengthens your gutters to protect against heavy snow and keeps them free from leaves and debris. Easy to install, made in Ontario, and backed by a 20-year limited warranty. The Smart Screen is the first step to hassle-free home maintenance. You can find Smart Screen at Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, and Lowe's. Find out more at thesmartscreen.com.
Wanna bet? You can do it at Sports Interaction Canada's sports book. Football is back. Baseball playoffs and the hockey season are around the corner. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Made for Canadians by Canadians. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. head to sportsinteraction.com/raw. That's sportsinteraction.com/raw.
Ontario only. 18 plus. Please play responsibly.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on SAUGA960am.ca.
Josh Holiday Live is in your ear. You got something to say? Call 647-6YO-JOSH now. On Twitter at Josh Holiday and visit joshholidaylive.com.
Yep, we're live Friday afternoon, Thanksgiving weekend. So, not a fan of Pierre Poilievre and the whole right-wing movement in Canada, including the anti-vax movement, the trucker convoy, which is essentially a lightly veiled white nationalist movement. And the truth about Pierre Poilievre leaked out a little bit yesterday. Over the last 4 years on his YouTube channel, there's been a tag associated with a misogynist men's rights movement. The tag was the letters MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way. Global News was the first to report on it, and they found the tag on 50 of Poilievre's most recent YouTube videos. I wasn't super shocked. I mean, he hasn't really been hiding his love of white nationalist idealism and populism and fascism. I think he showed his cards when he cozied up to the convoy people, the extremists, the white nationalist leaders. He's kind of shown us who he is already. So this wasn't a huge surprise. And he often, there was a clip I found online where there was about 10 different instances of him saying 30-year-old men in their basement, 30-year-old people in their basement. So he definitely is trying to court that contingent of loner men who believe the women owe him something. We've talked a little bit about this incel movement when it came to Jordan Peterson, and he loves to court them as well. Incel meaning involuntarily celibate. This is a toxic masculinity where these men feel they are owed sex, owed women's attention. And I thought it was equally disturbing that there were a lot of people on the right who came out to defend Poilievre and his use of this misogynist tag on his YouTube videos. Obviously, the folks at Sun Media, the Toronto Sun, the dope Brian Lilly, also heard radio hosts come to Poilievre's defense. If you're defending misogyny, what does that say about you? Mostly that you're a garbage person. He was even called out in the House of Commons by Trudeau, so I'll play you a little bit of that.
If it were not for Global News, we would not have learned that the Conservative leader has been purposefully using his videos to appeal to far-right misogynistic online movements. These are anti-women movements, and they have had devastating real-life consequences. Mr. Speaker, I call on the Conservative leader to stand in this House, take responsibility, and apologize. Mr. Speaker, the choice made by the Conservative leader in reaching out to extremist online groups into, pulling in anti-women, misogynistic groups for his own political gain is one that he will have to answer for. I think women across this country want to know why he allowed this to happen and want to see him take responsibility for it. Mr. Speaker, a lot of ink was spilled and a lot of admiration for the effectiveness of the Leader of the Opposition's campaign to become leader, using social media, using clever videos. We all marveled at his admiration for old wood. But what we didn't see, Mr. Speaker, was his choice to include deliberate reaches out to far-right organizations, including hateful anti-women organizations, to try and advance his own political gains. He has played too close to the line with extremists for too long. Now he's got caught. Will he admit it? Will he apologize? Will he take responsibility?
Yeah, so that's Trudeau in the House of Commons calling out Pierre Poilievre and his misogynist ways. Poilievre did sort of make a half-hearted apology, but as he's often done, he's claimed to have no knowledge of how this happened. He did the same thing when he was hanging out with these white nationalist guys, these leaders of these far-right groups. He's like, I had no idea they were these types of people. I'm just ignorant. I don't know anything about those things. Yeah, he's a garbage person. And the good thing is he's only popular with a very vocal minority. But the sad thing is that he's pulling the Conservative Party further to the right. We saw it happen in the States with Donald Trump, where the Republican Party, since George W. Bush, was already sort of headed in that direction. But with the advent of Trump and the aftermath, it's a party that just wants power, period. They don't have any ideas. They don't have any plans. And now we're seeing Poilievre pulling the Canadian Conservatives to the right. And I think in a large part, the good news is that Canadians reject, for the most part, that kind of extremism in politics. And most Canadians to this point see Stephen Harper as the worst prime minister of all time. And somewhat fittingly, Stephen Harper is helping puppeteer Poilievre's campaign and his movement. He's a weasel, dark weasel, Stephen Harper. And Poilievre's kind of the new Terminator model of that old hackneyed right-wing viewpoint. While we're on the topic of bad right-wingers, we should probably talk about Dougie Ford. Good old Dougie. Now, we've talked about Doug Ford in the past, and not glowingly, that's for sure. The main reason Doug Ford is in power is because people didn't bother to vote. I believe only 17% of the Ontario population actually voted for Doug Ford. There was a lot of vote splitting between mostly the Liberals and the NDP. But worse than that, there were a large number of voters who just didn't bother casting a vote. They just stayed home. And now we as a province are paying for that. Doug Ford is a disaster. He's not. We've talked about this before, where the best politicians get in it to do good work and try and help the people and try and make things better. Doug Ford is in politics to make himself and his buddies richer at the expense often of Ontarians who have to suffer the consequences. They did an Angus Reid survey, came out on Wednesday, and it's just 4 months into the Ford second term, and Ontarians are feeling generally negative about the party's performance, and that Ontarians overwhelmingly believe Doug Ford's government is poorly handling top issues such as housing, health care, and senior care. About 80% of respondents said they believe Ontario was doing a very poor or poor job when it came to health care. Nearly the same percent of respondents felt that way about housing affordability, while 77% said the PCs were doing a very poor or poor job with senior care. So people are seeing Doug Ford for what he is. The thinking is that he's starving health care so that people start complaining about it, and then his solution will probably be to offer privatization. So him and his buddies can get wealthy. Same reason he's building roads through developer lands so they can get paid. Probably the worst premier we've ever had. It's kind of like, it's almost like a parallel situation. Mike Harris, prior to Doug Ford, was probably the worst premier we've ever had. And now Doug Ford is the new version, where nationally Stephen Harper was the worst prime minister we ever had. And now Poilievre is the new version, making things even worse. And the problem is there's no way of recalling Doug Ford. He can do all kinds of terrible things that people don't like. The majority of people, a large majority of people, do not like. And we really can't do anything about it. In many of the states, there's a system where a governor can be recalled. If enough people call for a vote on the governor, sort of vote of confidence, they do a vote and decide whether or not the governor needs to be recalled or not. But that system doesn't exist here. So we're kind of stuck with Doug Ford for the next 3.5 years. And as the last 4 years have shown, he can do a lot of damage in that amount of time. And it started with healthcare. Many hospitals have patients lying in hallways, lying in the waiting rooms. It's a disaster. It's a health emergency. And it's not much better with the long-term care facilities. He's really messing things up. We could go on and talk about the education portfolio and the incompetence of Lecce, and how Ford's now bullying the teachers, almost goading them into going on strike so he can come down with a heavy fist and force change. We've never valued educational workers as much as they should be valued. Huge part of society and of basically raising our children. And they failed on that education front as well. It's a disaster, and it's frustrating because really there's not a lot we can do about it except shine the light on these misdeeds. I'm actually curious to know when there'll be a ruling on Doug Ford's secret letters to the ministers from his first go-round as premier. When he was first elected premier 4 years and change ago, he sent out mandate letters to the various ministers of how he wanted to handle things in the province. And normally, these things aren't controversial. It's just a basic, look, this is what we want to do. This is our plan. And the public generally gets to see them at some point. Well, for the last 4 years, since the existence of those letters has been known, citizens and journalists have been fighting to have those memos released, have those documents released so they could see what kind of shenanigans were happening behind the scenes with Doug Ford and his plans for Ontario. Now, if they were good things, if they were plans that Ontarians thought were good for the province and people generally liked, you'd think he'd want them to be seen and not put up a fight to have them hidden for so long. But that's not the case. Doug Ford and his cronies have fought tooth and nail to keep these documents hidden. And the last we heard, a couple months before the election, it had gone all the way up to Canada's Supreme Court. And we still wait. So the more we can expose Doug Ford's mismanagement, Doug Ford's corruption, Doug Ford's idiocy, the better Ontarians will be able to handle these things and be able to fight against them, whichever way we can. That's my rant. When we come back, we're going to have some fun. We may do some trivia. We may ask some trivia questions. We mentioned that we're going to tell you about the worst the worst toilet in the world, and we're going to let you know about the richest people. We're going to give you some information and have a little bit more fun on the home stretch.
I'm Jeff Woods, shining a light on music and the rock stars who make it with the Records and Rockstars podcast. Mounting a comeback would take courage on the part of Malcolm and Angus Young. Angus actually opened up to me about the loss.
It was very, for us, you were just low. I think anyone who's lost someone really close to them, family or whatever, I think we all know, you know that feeling. And it was Malcolm who said, look, why don't we get into the little rehearsal studio and finish these songs? He said, concentrate on that. That's what kept us going. And Bon, the last week before he had died, he'd come down the rehearsal studio where we were. And it was ironic in a way because he came in, he's playing drums with us. And that had happened in the beginning. Even now, I still get a bit emotional about it. But he just was one of those people, he stood out.
The Records and Rockstars podcast from the radio series and from Wildwood's Blue Performance Studio. All the episodes from JeffWoodsRadio.com.
The Punjabi Community Health Services PCHS Langar on Wheels is a program aimed at providing food to frail, homebound seniors who are unable to prepare meals for themselves. Each day we deliver fresh, hot, and nutritious meals that are familiar and comforting to a wide range of ethnicities according to the dietary needs of each person. Since 2016, PCHS has delivered nearly 200,000 meals to an average of 80 seniors per month. Too many seniors are stuck at home and out of sight. They are vulnerable to illness, weakness, and medical complications arising from hunger and poor nutrition. Now, more than ever, we need your help to expand our Langar on Wheels food delivery program. For more information and to donate, please go to our website, pchs.foundation. You can also send us an email at ceo@pchs.foundation. Our aim is a simple one, to ensure that no senior will go without food, ever.
Come celebrate the Festival of Lights at Belle Diwali Razzmatazz free festival starting this Saturday and Sunday, October 8th and 9th at Mississauga Celebration Square. Working in collaboration with the Indo-Canada Arts Council, the Belle Diwali Razzmatazz Festival is now in its 9th incredible year, providing a platform for over 500 artists and performers. Come and experience special dance performances, musical concerts, and lots of ethnic and Indian food and shopping. For complete details of the Belle Diwali Razzmatazz Festival, please visit www.canadadiwali.com.
Stream us live at SAUGA960am.ca.
Talk that rocks. It's Josh Holiday Live.
Crazy in love with Josh.
In middle school, he got a boner during a clarinet recital.
You need to be heard? Tell your phone to call 647-6YO-JOSH.
Yes. Give us a call, 647-6-YO-JOSH. Well, that faded rather quickly. All right. We won't worry too much about that. Jacob Goldbach back. I don't know why I say Bach. I think because it's the musical thing. Jacob Goldbach is hanging out here. Are you there, sir?
I am here.
All right. It works. Yay.
Yay.
Things are working. Good to hear. I'm just going to play this. I mentioned this earlier. This is someone talking about the 5 things as a hotel worker that she would recommend against.
Hopping on the 5 things I would never do trend working at a hotel. 1. If there's more than one person staying in the room, I would never not add their name on the reservation. If you, the primary person, happens to be gone and the other person gets locked out and they go to the front desk and their name's not on the room reservation, they don't get a key. They don't get in the room, period. 2. I would never use the remote control without wiping it down first with my own Clorox wipe. Your cleaning and my cleaning are different cleaning, you feel me? 3. I would never use the glasses in the room. I'm not talking about the styrofoam glasses or the paper cups. I'm talking about glasses that are sitting there for your use. I would never use them without washing them first. 4, I would never not sign up for the point program, whatever point program that the hotel is offering. Back in the day, you used to really have to let some of the points accumulate to actually use them for something good. But these days, they actually allow you to use them for other things, such as like Amazon points. 5, I would never sit on the bedspread. I would never make myself comfortable on the bedspread, sit on the bedspread. That thing comes off the first minute I walk into the hotel. Those things are not washed often. Nowadays, the upper scale hotels are actually better about, if you notice the bedspreads, the white ones, those are actually like sheets, flat sheets that they fold into, so people now have them. So those are okay, but if it's not that and it's an actual bedspread, those things get cleaned like maybe once a year. Don't sit on those.
There you go. I was at a hotel on the weekend, and they did have one of those white comforters. It's kind of weird because it's a comforter, but then they kind of wrap it in 2 sheets. So inevitably, because I kick the sheets around, I don't like my sheets tucked in. I like the freedom to put it between my knees and stuff like that. I always wonder, because the comforter inside, like the duvet or whatever it is, it gets exposed, and I keep wondering if that they wash as often as the sheets or not, because inevitably that would be the same issue of touching something that's been on the bed for a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I just find you're better off not thinking about it at all. That's what I try and do whenever I stay in a hotel.
I'm often like that with food around the house. If I draw, I'm like, you know what? People have lived in primitive times in third world countries, and am I really going to worry that much about some dopey semen stain on a on a comforter? Maybe now that I mention it, maybe I would. We've always seen lists of the best of things in the world, the most luxurious hotel rooms, most luxurious hotels, and we've even seen lists of like what's the best, what's the greatest bathroom in the world. Well, now there's a guy who spent $150,000, traveled 120,000 kilometers to 100 different countries to find the world's worst public toilet. And he found it. He's known as the King of the Porcelain, Graham Askey. And as I read this story, my first thought was, it's easy to quantify what the best is because there's always room to be better than the best. But when it comes to toilets, at what point, the worst is probably like a hole in the ground in the middle of like some really gross area. So how do you determine what the worst is when it's essentially a hole in the ground? So let's see what he did here. He scanned the globe for for the worst toilets, and he says he found the, quote, perfect hellhole in Tajikistan. It's a ramshackle tent that's so bad that those desperate enough to use it must scurry over sun-dried poo. But the most repellent thing of all, he says, is that its fabric walls are used as toilet paper. Apparently some wall sections have been torn off and discarded on the cubicle floor. He says there's also a danger of disturbing deadly snakes and fearless rats, which have made their homes in the nearby rocks. Other bathrooms that made the list of 36 crappiest crappers in his new book, Toilets of the Wild Frontier, include a sink in Bangladesh, a bath containing liters of number ones and number twos in China, with the plug left in, and a wooden chair with a toilet seat in Benin, which is perched prominently upon a raised platform in the middle of the village.
You know, I was thinking about it, Josh, like when you said, oh, there's no way any of these places could be worse than just, you know, going in the forest and doing your thing. But I don't know. On second thought, I'd almost rather just have the privacy of going in a peaceful forest.
In a hole. Well, I guess I didn't consider the mitigating factors of snakes and rats. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. So that does make sense. And I will probably not be in those countries anyway, but yeah, if I was, I would avoid those bathrooms. And I will complain less about.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to do my duty and, you know, go number two with knowing my life was on the line by poisonous snakes. I just don't know if I'd be able to get the job done.
I think that's just generally a phobia, and people often have that fear of like, oh, there's going to be a snake in the toilet. That's like the worst thing you can think of. But having a bunch of snakes and rocks nearby where you're pooping on the ground is not great. And I'm terrible with smells, so I have a sense I wouldn't just be peeing or pooping. I would probably be vomiting as well from the smell. At the very least, I would be dry heaving. So there you go. Something to brighten your afternoon. The new ranking of the planet's richest people came out. There are 2,668 billionaires on the list, which is 87 fewer than a year ago. We'll just give you the top five. Mark Zuckerberg often was in the top 3 or 4 for a long time, but he's actually fallen down to number 15 with a net worth of only $67.3 billion.
Poverty, 15th in the world. Are you kidding me?
I can't imagine.
Can you imagine?
When you think of a billion, it's $1,000 million. Even $1 million or $100 million is a lot, but billions, $1,000 million. Like how?
Yeah. Beyond belief.
Well, the one thing I don't understand is like how much is enough. There's that many billionaires on the planet, and in a lot of cases, the mega rich are trying to get richer and richer at the expense of the middle class, the lower class. To what end, though? You're never going to spend all of that money. Like, why are they fighting for tax breaks? For like, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense, and I just don't understand that. And in some cases, like you look at Jeff Bezos is number 2 on the list, $178 billion.
It's like, what are you going to do with all that? Like, come on, like.
Well, and then you read about him, fighting not to pay Amazon workers or not wanting them to unionize. Like, how much money is enough that you would say, oh, you know what? I'm going to help other people. I really, really don't get it. Well,
to be fair, I do think a lot of these people do use not a good chunk, but a portion, a sliver of their money toward to good use and helping some others. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, 178 billion, like really in your lifetime, you're not even going to use, you're going to use maybe 2% of that, 2-3% of that reasonably. Like there's so much just extra money that are sitting in these people's net worths that they're just not doing anything with.
Well, and even if they're thinking, well, what about my kids and my grandkids? That's enough wealth to trickle down 10 generations and still live like royalty. There are people. So let's look at the list here. There are some people on the list who are known to be philanthropists and known to want to make the world a better place. Number 5, he's always on these lists in the top 5 or 10 is Warren Buffett, investment firm Berkshire Hathaway. He's worth $118 billion, and he's often one of the first guys to say, yes, please tax me more. I have too much money. I would like there to be better taxes. I shouldn't be paying less taxes than my my secretary or my receptionist. And a lot
and
of
he's also just waiting to give $1 billion away to whoever gets that perfect March Madness bracket too.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the guy who owned, I think, Patagonia, who just randomly decided to give all of his stake in the company to a couple of different environmental charities. Number 4 on this list of the world's richest people, Bill Gates. He's also a guy who's started foundations and given a lot of money away, although maybe a bit of a creep. It's kind of it's sort of weird that he was a little bit buddyish with Epstein, and his divorce wasn't especially cordial. One who is on this list who I have no idea who it is. I guess it's more of a European family, is number 3, Bernard Arnault and family, LMVH Fashion and Retail, based in France, worth $158 billion. Number 2 on the list, Jeff Bezos, who we mentioned, at $178 billion. And the person with the most money, with an estimated net worth of $219 billion, is perhaps the world's most well-known douchebag, Elon Musk. It's hard to watch. It's what happens if a really terrible person has an unlimited amount of money, and Elon Musk is essentially what happens. He's it gets worse and worse. Like he's slipping to the right. He's helping right-wing causes. He's trying to buy Twitter to allow all of the troglodytes and right-wingers and hateful people back on. That's his plan. And I think he had sort of stopped the deal with Twitter, but now I think wants to get it back on because some of his private texts have come to light, and they don't paint him in an especially flattering light. But those are the richest, and man, time flies. It's almost the end of the show. It is the end of the show. Jacob, thanks for popping in for a little bit.
Yeah, my pleasure, Josh. Thank you. Go Jays.
Go Jays. Go Leafs preseason tonight. And you have yourself a good Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep, you too.
Turn on the lights, open the shades.
The show's over, but the conversation continues. On Twitter at Josh Holiday. On the web at joshholidaylive.com. And hear missed episodes on your favorite podcatcher. Talk that rocks. Josh Holiday Live.
like, I'm going to call. Go ahead. Call, leave your message, and on a when it's raining is just a myth. It's mythic. Talk about those things in just a bit. Hot.
Yo, Josh now on Twitter at Josh. Josh Holiday Live.
Mr. Speaker, I call on the Conservative. Organizations to try and advance his own.
Tell you about the worst the worst toilet. Have a little bit more fun on the home stretch. I'm Jeff. Recommend against.
Hopping on the 5 things
at SAUGA960am.ca.
Stretch. Talk that rocks. It's Josh Holiday.